Hello, hello. Are we? That's okay. We're here, and we are not drinking beer, but we should be drinking beer. Joe Sansom, another 5-0 win. Hello, how are you?
I'm delighted. I was cutting it a little bit fine, joining the chat, joining the call, I should say, but really excited. We thought we should do a live after what's been, to be honest, an incredible week for Fulham. Something that I don't think either of us expected to be quite so great. And it was almost a throwback to the Championship days, Jack, when we used to have lives all the time after some fantastic, massive wins. But yeah, doing really well. How about yourself?
Yeah, mate, I'm on top of the world. It doesn't really get much better than this. We've had spells in the Championship season under Marco Silva where we would score a lot of goals and even concede quite a few goals within those games. But this is different because this is the Premier League. This shouldn't really happen. And I've been racking my brains for ages now since the full time whistle. I'm not sure because I couldn't find it. I went through Opta, I went through the Premier League, but has a team ever won back-to-back games in the Premier League by 5-0? Yeah.
So I found out that they have, but it's like a tiny, tiny list, and we're joining like the elite of the elite.
Okay, that's good though.
And I think the only time it's been three, and by the way, I don't mean 5-0, I mean a 5-goal margin.
Okay,
And I believe that the only time that it has happened most recently for more than two games, warning to Newcastle, was Man City in 2017. So fingers crossed we can replicate that. Jack, before we dive into it, we should put a quick word out to our sponsor. You can see at the bottom there. And of course, it's a season for festive football. We've said this before. It's a wonderful time of year where we're all watching football all the time. We're both going to go and watch the Champions League right after this. And just a message to Green King Sport, who have kindly sponsored Fulhamish for the whole of the season. And if you can't make it to a game, for example, if you can't make it to Newcastle, if you can't make it to Everton, go down and watch at your local Green King Sports pub. And hopefully we'll have a few more televised fixtures coming soon, because no one could tune in to our 5-0 win over West Ham, Jack, which is a massive shame.
no, they would have to watch it on maybe a dodgy stream, perhaps a dodgy stream. You can download the Green King Sport app, and you'll receive 10% off drinks every single time there's sport on telly. There's a link to the description at the bottom of the podcast feed, of the YouTube feed. Essentially, we want to thank Green King for their sponsorship this season, Joe. This is like a regular Jack and Joe show, isn't it? But we are live because we want to have some chat with the viewers.
Yeah.
The numbers on the videos recently have been absolutely phenomenal. Like some really good viewership for the videos, and to be fair, it's I suppose justified because we're doing so well in the Premier League. Joe, we didn't see each other on Sunday. We saw each other obviously against Forest. But from your point of view, after let's sort of set this up for you. Like, okay, so first 10-15 minutes, it was West Ham who were causing some issues. There was a bit of teething issues into the game. It really reminded me at the beginning of the Nottingham Forest game and how it took that one goal, that one moment to spark us into life. And with the opening goal coming from Raul Jimenez, from my point of view, I think this goal is scored because when Robertson's down, there's an exception that when the ball runs free and Paulinho sort of almost lets the ball go out of play. So I'm guessing that the West Ham players have gone, oh, I think the ball's going to go out of play. And they switch off a little bit, switch back on 2 seconds later. He's still got the ball and he's sort of passing it around with Cairney and Willian at the time. And suddenly it's the cross that almost looks like a shot. It comes in at such pace, and the way Jimenez gets his head to it, just no chance of Fabianski. But can you sort of understand why West Ham may have switched off in that moment? Because of there's numerous chances to put the ball off the pitch, basically.
To a point, yeah, but my head would be absolutely gone if I was a West Ham fan conceding that goal, because I don't understand how you can be that deep in your own box, outnumbering the Fulham players in the box, and still get so caught out. Don't get me wrong, it's a fantastic cross with so much pace in it, as you say. Jimenez basically just has to make some sort of contact, and it's most likely going in to the corner. I think that it was really interesting that obviously Robinson went down, West Ham played on. We then got the ball back and played on, and there were just massive boos from the crowd to West Ham. It's like, we've just done the exact same thing. Don't get me wrong, they did it first, but it's almost like we have also played on. So I was delighted that we did, and we didn't put it out. Paulinho was basically a one-man army. tackling the players twice.
It could
The
have been.
first one was
It didn't
Kudus.
look like it was. Could have been a foul. Could it have been?
Well, I was a bit nervous about that at first, but I mean, the play went on for so long.
Mm,
Not that sometimes stops VAR, obviously, because it's in the same phase. Just a wonderful cross. You mean, João Palhinha, we both wax lyrical about him, as does every Fulham fan. But the one thing you don't really ever mention from him is his crossing. It's
no.
never something that's really come into play. His long passing has got a lot better, I think, this season. Not that it was ever poor, but I just think it's another aspect of his game that's really improved as he's been at the club longer. And that was just a perfect example. And Jimenez is so confident at the moment. You can tell. I think the Forest second goal that he scored was the perfect example of that, where it wasn't just a tap in, it was the back heel. He's starting to become the player that we thought he could be in terms of similar to the player that he used to be before that awful injury.
Mm.
Marco Silva's got a fantastic track record of improving players that are maybe past their peak or in a bad run of form or just not having the best time of their careers. And this seems to be another one where the opportunity is for that. I mean, I said for my hot take of the season, Jack, that Jimenez would get double figures. I'm now starting to think that I could be right because he's already on 4.
The form he's in right now, he could match Haaland. He could catch up to Haaland if he keeps being injured and not featuring for Manchester City. No, look, this is brilliant because it was the huge concern, wasn't it? Not even after Mitrovic left, but the games that came after that, and there was a lack of goals, and it was Vinicius and it was Raul, and it was like they're both not firing. And I always figure that chance that he had at Crystal Palace away where Jimenez went in, and it was a good strike. It was a good save from Johnston. Like he didn't do anything wrong, but I was like, on another day we'll put that away. And I didn't see the goal he scored against Villa. I'd already left the ground by then, but that was the catalyst to get him going, and he hasn't looked back since. I mean, the back heel against Nottingham Forest, the header against West Ham, and the first one, the crashed finish to the Pereira set up at the second goal against Forest. I mean, these are very well taken, smart Premier League goals, scored by what was a very good Premier League striker in Jimenez before his injury. And then obviously it's circumstantial. You can completely understand it. Even I was saying to the guy who sat next to me on Sunday that it's almost as if, there were times where Jimenez wouldn't 100% go for the ball. And I can understand it from a mental point of view, like going through that sort of injury and the trauma that brings. But almost it's like as if that goal gave him I will go up for a header. I will challenge the centre-backs. I will try and win the ball. And it is brilliant to see, Joe. And Jimenez, and I'm sure we'll talk about a lot of individual performances on Sunday because there were 11 perfect performances, basically. But let's just talk briefly about the second goal. It was funny because the second goal almost reminds me of the Willian goal he scored last season against Nottingham Forest. Not in the way that he puts the ball top bins or anything, but it's because there was so much chaos in the box before that goal against Forest where he puts it in the top corner, because obviously the ball gets pulled back to Iwobi on Sunday. He gets the shot away and it was well saved by Fabianski, but we were right on them again. And I felt like that Iwobi shot in itself could have been a goal, and it was still us. The ball comes across. I think Iwobi goes for it. He obviously misses it and it falls to Willian. It's perfect because Willian just sort of comes onto the ball. He doesn't really have to put any power on it. He just sort of has to guide it into the corner. And it was really nice from the angle I was at, just sort of see it go into the corner like that. And what I just want to know, like at 2-0 against the West Ham team who had started well against us, what on earth were you thinking in the Hammersmith end?
I think I was thinking this is West Ham's karma for this season so far, and also all the games we played against them, where it was a bit of a nothing game.
Right.
And then we basically had 2 real clear-cut chances in the Jimenez header, and then that sort of pinball scramble that obviously led to the goal. Other than that, it was half chances for both teams. I watched West Ham, well, as did you. You were there. And that first half against Tottenham, they were hanging on. And I feel like they've done that a lot this season. And it's a good trait to have in terms of staying in games when you're not at your best. But if you are playing like that every single game, eventually someone is going to be ruthless. And I'm so glad it was us after the games we had against them last season where we deserved a lot more away. But at home, I remember it was just such a frustrating game. We just couldn't score for love nor money. And they basically had one half chance that led to an own goal, which should have been disallowed for handball anyway. So in the Hammersmith end, I'm thinking, let's go and get more because I fucking hate these guys. and
Yeah,
City.
you have a hatred for West Ham, don't you?
Yeah, I really don't like them, Jack. I really don't like them. And I'm really glad that if we had to put someone to the sword, it was them.
Interesting.
There have been some other teams slightly higher on the list, but as you know, I don't like most teams for whatever childish reason. Even Hull are still living in my head from 2013, 2014, as you know.
Shane Long.
Yeah, don't need to speak about that anymore. But that second goal, Jack, I think sums up why we're doing a lot better, not just in terms of goal scoring, but in chance creation. The amount of bodies we had in the box there was fantastic. The way we flooded forward, like you say, great chance for Iwobi, edge of the box, good save by Fabianski. But then when it falls to Pereira, who is the first to the second ball, which we were in both games this week, when he crosses it back in, not only could Iwobi have tapped it in, but he almost fluffed the shot. But then we also had Willian there as well. There's bodies ready, no matter where the ball falls, to score the goal. And that's the attacking intent that we hadn't really seen so far this season. We'd have so many crosses. I remember the Brentford game, first half before Diop made the mistake, was a great example where we had so much possession and there was just no one in the box. There was no one to cross it to. That didn't stop us. We're still crossing it into
And it was
those
like groans because
yeah,
there was no one there.
So frustrating. And that second goal was definitely the key goal, Jack, because I think, the first goal was obviously the key goal, but the second goal, from then, we did not look back at all. They didn't have a look in.
It was incredible because coming into this game, like I said, I was at the Spurs game against West Ham, and this was a Spurs team who have got Son and Lo Celso and Kulusevski and Brennan Johnson and all these really, really good, gifted players. And they could not break down West Ham. And I'm thinking, well, we've been here before because last season we couldn't break down West Ham. So how on earth are we going to get around them? And we just did. Obviously we get the first goal, they've got to push up a little bit and, bring the game to us. And that causes, there were some chances where Iwobi would be running free and Cairney would try and pick him out. And I think we were a bit wasteful in that period between the first and the third goal. There was a couple of chances where Iwobi, if the pass was just a little bit better, we would have been in. And Iwobi had that chance that was wide. He went wide and he got the shot straight at Fabianski. I seem to remember. Not to take anything away from the performance, it was the best 90 minutes I've seen Fulham. I don't know, maybe for a long, long time, especially in the context of where we are. You say you don't like West Ham. I've got a soft spot for West Ham. I cover them almost every week, and I'm going to be at Rush Green tomorrow for the matchday -1, and then at the Freiburg game on Sunday, and I'm actually missing the Sunday or Thursday. Actually missing the Fulham Burnley game because I'm going to be at Manchester United against West Ham, which is a shame because I want to see Marco Silva's tricky Fulham, but that'll be an interesting one. West Ham against United, and so much narrative around Manchester United right now. Third goal. Yeah. First of all, if I could have picked a goal scorer, it would have been Tosin, just to get the feel good. Like, he obviously doesn't score much. He scored against Forest last season, but he might have scored one against Hull no, he didn't score.
Bournemouth last minute in the.
It was Bournemouth, yeah. No, so that maybe his third goal for Fulham. But anyway,
he got one at Reading as well. Maybe he scored loads and we just can't remember them.
He scored Reading, one of the 7, didn't he?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Did he? I don't know.
Tete scored.
Yeah, maybe it was Tete.
Maybe it was a Tosin.
No, Tosin got the 6th. Tosin got the 6th. Yeah.
Tosin. Oh, yeah, it was a free header. But yes, it felt far too easy. I know Soufal got a touch, on the way in, but the way Tosin sort of approached the box, it didn't seem as if anyone knew that he was going to be some sort of threat. And the ball is bang on, like absolutely on the money. So more credit needs to be given to Andreas Pereira, who notched off an assist in the game. That was his only assist. But overall, the last 2 games for Pereira, especially, this is as good as we've seen him play for Fulham, including last season. So a word on Tosin and a word on Pereira.
Yeah, like you say, watching that Spurs-West Ham game and you're seeing all these giants in the box and Spurs are sort of crossing it into no avail, not necessarily from set pieces, but just all around, open play. I was not expecting to score against them from a set piece.
Well, Romero did it on Thursday, to be fair.
Yeah, that's a very fair point. What I should say is I was not expecting to score so easily from a set piece in terms of it. I know Kufal jumps with him. It felt like it was a free header. The leap that he gets and the time that he's got quite far out to direct it. And like I said, then Kufal sort of like heads it up into the net, as Stanley put on Instagram, own goal, which made me laugh, to try and take it away from Tosin.
That's brilliant.
Fantastic to see Tosin get a goal, and fantastic to see us score from a set piece again, because obviously we've had a couple this season, the most famous being the Polina one at Arsenal, but obviously then we had the one against Man City a week later, for example. There's been a few, but they were crucial for us last season, and it was Pereira's delivery, often to Mitrovic, but our centre-backs all chipped in as well. For example, Diop scoring on his debut against Bournemouth, and, you know, Tosin, wonderful to see him get a goal. I really, really hope that contract is on its way. You know,
he seemed pleased. He seemed very pleased he'd scored.
He did. You know, he won't have done himself any harm with these two performances since coming back into the side, in terms of anyone being interested in January if the contract isn't sealed by then. But yeah, it's great to see Marco Silva wants him to stay, and obviously has trusted him enough to put him straight back in. Ream was actually injured, it seems, because he wasn't on the bench, but yes. I doubt that was the case of Forest, because he was on the bench. But there's a lovely balance to Bassi and Tosin, which I'm loving to see at the moment. But yeah, Jack, you're completely right. Pereira, we both sort of, I wouldn't say, you know, bashed him early in the season, but we were both basically realising that he's our creative player, and he was going through quite a few games anonymously and without too many game-changing contributions, not necessarily goals and assists, but any chance creation. I would still love to see slightly more from open play in general, but this last two games is the level that you would want to see from him, because he has been doing it in open play. It's not just limited to set pieces, despite that goal. You know, he was absolutely crucial for 3 of the goals on last Wednesday against Forest. He doesn't get given the assist for the second Jimenez one because it touched Aina when he was getting absolutely flattened, which is quite funny. He was literally arguing with, I think it was like SofaScore in the comments on Instagram, because he also hasn't been given the assist against Everton opening day, because it touched an Everton player on its way through. And if it touches... Yeah. Now, I'm going to say one thing on this, which probably no one else but me cares about. If that is the grounds for an assist, then how did Tsimikas get given the assist for Trent's goal when he didn't even touch the ball? Bobby Reed heads it back, and Trent played it in, and Tsimikas got the assist. It's there. It's down in history. Tsimikas assisted the last-minute goal. He just got fucking... I just got fucking... Oh, I was fuming about that on behalf of Pereira. Jack, it was a fantastic first half, but then the second half, I've got to admit, I had this weird feeling at half-time where it was like, this is too easy. It can't be this easy. You know, Bowen sort of had a couple of warning shots, you know, nothing too outrageous, but I thought, well, you know, if they score next, I don't want it to get a bit edgy, but it was like we came and played with our, you know, cigar in hand, I should say. Might as well have been cigar in mouth.
One player in particular was playing with a cigar in his mouth the whole 90, and that was TC.
Tom Cairney, yeah.
Oh, mate, that was like, I know the other day we were waxing lyrical about TC against Forest, but and it's so weird because, by the way, I think the last time we were 3 up at half time in a Premier League game was Leicester last season, and TC scored in that game as well.
Yeah.
So there's no coincidence there. I mean, this is ridiculous. Yeah. So basically, he's basically gone in the post-match interview on the website. He said that he found it easy because when he went to receive the ball from Paulini and drop deep, no Forest man would go with him. No one would press him. And it was just the exact same thing that happened against West Ham. It was almost as if, and I wrote an article about it, and I said it in the article yesterday, that West Ham hadn't done their homework on what Forest lacked against us.
Which I just find unbelievable, because, like you say, it was the exact same defensive setup, pretty much, just standing off us.
The point being is that maybe the fact that, but it doesn't matter about personnel. It's just the tactic of doing that, a tactic of pressing. But no Edson Alvarez for West Ham. Maybe he would have done that, but I'd expected to see it from Souček, or I would expect to see it from Fornals, who, by the way, Fornals was dreadful. I mean, West Ham were 20 minutes on dreadful. A bit of life in Ben Rama in the second half. Kudos. I always like watching Kudos. He's a good player, but I thought Ward-Prowse looked knackered, absolutely knackered by 30 minutes.
the media machine is out in full force after getting briefed by West Ham about this virus going around their camp and about
Well,
how Fornals was so ill that he was actually ill in the dressing room at half time. I would question, if he was that ill, why'd you start him? Just don't start him.
well,
Like
they
it's
had quite a
ridiculous.
few out. Like
Yeah, but
Emerson was
they had
ill.
Cornet on the bench,
Well, he
exact
obviously
same position.
doesn't rate Maxwell Cornet because he doesn't get a
I
look
just
in.
find it ridiculous that they were playing players that are supposedly unwell and using it as an excuse, to be completely honest with you. Obviously, it impacted Alvarez enough that he was out of the game completely. That is a big loss, no two ways about it. And Emerson so much that he couldn't start the game. But I don't want anyone to read into that and take anything away from how we played and how
Yeah,
we just
exactly.
nullified them.
I don't think that necessarily. The point being, like, I don't think an illness will necessarily stop you from just pressing your man in Tom Cairney.
Yeah,
I think that
yeah.
Tom Cairney it was like ridiculous. He received the ball and he would have so much time. I feel like he would almost look up and be like, I can't believe how much time I've got. And he would turn and he would dribble and he would do these little jinking runs. And it was, talk to me about Tom Cairney's performance, because it felt so like nostalgic, so comforting, so impressive, and of course 300th appearance. And I think that might be top 10 Kenny performance I've ever seen. But he was allowed to do that from the naivety of the West Ham press.
He was, but this week, the biggest compliment I can give to how Cairney's been playing is it was like Championship Cairney in terms
Yeah.
of when he looks too good for the opposition. And despite him being very good this season, last season, even the odd game in the 2 seasons where we went down prior, I never felt he was reaching that level like he did in the Championship, where it looks like he is just bossing everything in the middle of the park. And that's how it felt in both of these games. No one could get near him, sometimes by choice, like you say, in terms of tactics. But then even the occasions when, he was closed down, he was doing some fancy flicks, drifting to the touchline. It was just magical. And then the ball to Harry Wilson for the 4th goal, which we need to talk about separately,
Oh my word! What a
was
goal.
just fantastic. And where I sit, Jack, in H7, it's almost like coming towards me. And I couldn't believe how perfect the strike was. I can only compare it to, once again, Tom Cairney against Leeds. Yeah,
absolutely. And it was obviously from a slightly wider angle, or
yeah.
maybe it wasn't, because I suppose the camera angle's higher, so maybe it wasn't from about the
It
same
did,
place.
it did feel really wide, but I don't know if I was just quite shocked when he took it on so early, and I loved it.
But you knew he was going to shoot. I mean, from the first touch, from the way he went in, and then suddenly he had the runner go, and then you thought the space just opened up. And it was something about when he was about to strike it. I was like, this is going in. Because
Yeah,
it just looked so picturesque. I think Harry Wilson has been, in this run of form, our most underrated player in
yeah.
that. Liverpool, excellent, made things happen, scored the goal. Wolves, sorry, I suppose I can't remember. I'm going forward from Liverpool. What was the last one? Liverpool,
Forest.
Forest. Yeah, Forest, brilliant. I mean, I think he came off the bench, didn't he?
Yeah,
He came on in what minute did he come in? Or maybe, oh yes, he came on the 63rd minute and set up Iwobi, of course, the 4th
yeah.
goal. Brilliant.
And
But
even if you go further back, Jack, like you say, I mean, the Wolves game, he came on and won the penalty and looked electric. And even before the international break against Villa, second half, I know nothing came from it, unfortunately, but he absolutely ran the show in that second half. He was the best player on the pitch, including Aston Villa, the winning side. He's been fantastic since then. And it's great that we've got such strength and depth that he's still trying to fight for his place. It's great that we've got this competition. Willian obviously went off with a knock at half time,
the only
which I
negative
forgot to
from the game.
mention.
Yeah.
As you say, the only negative from the game. Will he be back for Saturday? We don't know. But if he's not, at least we've got Harry Wilson ready to come in from the off.
At Newcastle away as well. We'll get into Newcastle very, very briefly. Let's very, very shortly. Let's just talk about the 5th goal.
Yeah,
I can't even remember what it was. Oh, there we go. It's good to see Vinicius score. Good for confidence, but it does feel as though that he came on because it was so comfortable. I would have brought on Muniz personally, but
same.
I guess he, sort of betting him in. He's come out. It was a bad injury he got, and he's back sooner than we thought. Really, Harrison Reed coming on, and this is the thing. Like, it's actually quite sad because Harrison Reed was such a mainstay for us last season, and he's now because we are looking at being more creative as opposed to more defensive minded. And obviously Harrison Reed is creative, but obviously not as creative as Tom Cairney and Pereira and Iwobi. It's sad that he's like having to play second fiddle now, but this is just part and parcel of football. Like, he was brilliant in our championship season, brilliant last season, and now without even really buying a new player, he's gone down the pecking order. We've just been revitalised in Tom Cairney's performances, and Iwobi's obviously gone wide as well. So Pereira takes up the 10 role. The ball from Harrison Reed is brilliant. I don't know why they're so high up, West Ham. I don't know what they're playing at. I didn't even celebrate the goal because I was like, it's going to be offside. And it just wasn't. It was just a goal. So good for Vinicius. And like, when that went in, you must have been like, we've just won 5-0 twice in a row. Like, how does that feel?
Ridiculous. In the Premier League, to see that is just obscene. Especially when you factor in where we were just a few weeks ago, and we, that's 10 goals in a week when we scored 10 up to the international break. It's just unbelievable. It's more than the Scott Parker season at home. And that's not just bashing him, it's bashing the team as well. I can't believe the amount of goals we've been scoring lately. And I really don't want it to end. And obviously it will end at some point, because no one can maintain that. Like, Man City don't maintain that every week, that level. But it's been so fun. I just want it to go on forever. Feels like we're going to score every time we go forward.
It did have that feeling, yeah.
Interesting you say about Harrison Reed, Jack, because I guess we just got to the end of that game now. So I'll ask you this in a more general sense. There's been a few games recently where we're getting to the end, Lukic comes on. We're getting to the end, Harrison Reed comes on. It's never the two of them. And they're normally both on the bench recently, other than Liverpool away, where Harrison Reed started. And potentially it would be similar for Newcastle, slightly more defensive setup. We'll move on to what we think in a second. My question really is, if we are to be buying a new central midfielder in January, like we're rumoured to be, so for the sake of this, I sort of want to assume that Andre comes in. And for the sake of this as well, Polina stays.
We'd be winning
at least
the league
until the summer. What do we do? Because in my mind, you don't have 3 central midfielders on the bench. I think that's too many.
Yeah.
Who do you think is more likely to be a Fulham player long term, Harrison Reed or Lukic? Now, the reason I think it's tricky is that Harrison Reed has had longer at the club. He signed a new deal recently. But then I would also say Marco Silva has brought in Lukic. Marco Silva has given Lukic starts in massive occasions, such as Arsenal away, Anfield and Old Trafford last season. They seem to offer slightly different things as well. But who do you think would be more likely to stay at Fulham?
I don't know, because it's quite interesting, because he was linked with Everton and Wolves in the summer, and I was thinking, there's no way we're going to sell Harrison Reed now. And maybe it was just the mentality of obviously like not expecting that Tom Cairney would come to this form. Therefore, this wouldn't really be an issue. I'm not saying it's a bad issue. It's a good selection headache. And I feel bad because obviously Luka just come in. Mitrovic was there, Serbian speaking. Mitrovic leaves. Lukic probably still isn't fluent in English, and he's also not getting the game time. So it almost feels like he's sort of stuck in limbo. Whereas Harrison Reed, I think he could do a job for any Premier League team in the bottom half, even going up to like the Brentfords and probably the Brightons in this league. Certainly West Ham. I don't know, Joe. I don't really know like how to answer your question, because
it's just something I'm thinking about ahead of January, because
I don't think we're going to sell to buy. I just think we're going to just have a clump of loaded midfielders, and I think that's just better than anything. You think about FA Cup will come into play soon. Carabao Cup, semi-final 2 legs. We'll need a big squad for that. I don't know. I mean, it's really, really tough, because I've got sentimental memories of obviously Harrison Reed. I don't want him to leave, and I want to give Lukic more of a chance, because he hasn't really been here often, been here too long. Interesting. That's a good point, though. I wonder what anyone else thinks in the comments.
Let us know in the comments. I mean, if you had to keep one of them, what would you say? I mean, I don't want to be harsh to either of them, but it just feels like, you're getting to a massive squad at that point. We don't know if we'll sign Andre. We don't know if we'll keep Polina. So it's a purely hypothetical question. I think, Jack, we should come on to the Newcastle game. And obviously, thanks to everyone watching live. To anyone that isn't, at the time of recording, Newcastle are playing their Champions League massive game against AC Milan tomorrow.
Tomorrow,
there's injury speculation to add to the already injury crisis they're having in terms of Dubravka, Longstaff, and Anthony Gordon have all been missing from training today. And Eddie
Have
Howe is
they?
refusing to comment on whether they'll be ready. Obviously, if Dubravka's not there, Pope's already out, so it would be Karius in goal. Anthony Gordon would be a massive loss, and Longstaff is a very, very important player for them in midfield. They do think that Dan Burn will be back, so probably play against us because they think he'll be back for Wednesday, let alone Saturday. But very good point from Carl to mention what I was about to say is that Trippier is out with suspension. So Jack, what do you like? How do you approach this game? Because I feel like if it was a fully strength Newcastle, you approach this game very differently with a different mindset. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, is this the best time to play Newcastle? Without a shadow of a doubt. Doesn't matter if it's home or away or neutral at Wembley or anywhere. This is by far the best opportunity to get something from Newcastle at this moment in time. Like, absolutely. Because what is the most important game of their season? Well, it's tomorrow night.
Yeah.
All the eggs that are in that basket. Are they sitting pretty in the Premier League? And they'll be, they're pushing for Europe, but right now they want to stay in Europe. That's the priority. I mean, they're seventh in the table on 26 points. This Fulham game, no one's going to go to St James's tomorrow and go, boy, I hope we take it easy. We've got Fulham on Saturday, given the form that we're in. Like that doesn't even come into. It's all about this Champions League game against AC Milan and winning it and hoping that's enough to get them through, or doing something at least to stay in the Europa League. That being, and then add to that Trippier and all these injury issues. I mean, no Tonali for other reasons, but looking at their injury list now on paper, if I just get it up very, very quickly, they have. I mean, it's absolutely extraordinary.
It's obscene. I haven't seen anything like it for a long time.
Elliot Anderson, still a good player. Harvey Barnes, Sven Botman, who apparently could be back. I spoke to a Newcastle fan last night who said that Botman may be back for the weekend. Dan Burn, who you mentioned earlier, Manquillo, yeah, but okay. Josh Murphy, Nick Pope, Matt Targett, Tonali, Willock. I mean, it's obviously Isak and Wilson. To have two very good strikers is obviously dangerous and a threat, and they've still got. Yeah. Let's look at the players that they do have. Almiron. I mean, you said Gordon, but Gordon might not feature now. So I think, and I said to you after the game against Nottingham Forest, I think we'll go and get something. I feel strongly that we will. I mean, given the form we're on, given the form they're on, and the consequences of what could happen tomorrow night, the hangover they could have from a bad result tomorrow night. Joe, it feels like it's playing into our hands a lot. That being said, we've still got to go and do the business. On a nice, expansive pitch like St James's Park, I think we will score minimum 1, probably minimum 2. And I think, I'll give a score prediction. I think we're going to win 3-1. I think we're going to win 3-1.
Wow. Love it. I mean, I was nervous after the Liverpool game of an almost, the phrase, after the Lord Mayor's show performance. Yes. When it's like, back down to earth.
Yeah.
Then I was expecting that after Forest.
Yeah.
And now I'm kind of expecting it again, but then I'm not because of how consistent we've been over these last few weeks. Performance levels have been good since Wolves. And I think if we play to that level again, we win this game. Like you, I'm confident. I think that getting something from this game would be a positive result. Like, I don't think it has to be a win. I think getting anything at St James's Park is... They've been wonderful at home. Even with this injury record, they still beat Man United and Chelsea. Yes, they're not who they were this season, or even compared to last season, but they're still big sides with impressive squads overall. So I'm like you, Jack. I'm feeling positive. I'm going to say that we're going to score a couple of goals, but let in a couple of this one. I feel like Wilson always fucking scores against us, doesn't he? So I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw, which I think would be a really good result. Okay. And I'd be happy with that. But I really think we could win this game, like you say. In terms of the lineup, I mean, what do you think?
It's a great question. Like who do we line? Like, who plays? I mean, do you drop Cairney? Surely. I mean, 6-day rest for Tom Cairney to play at Newcastle. Why not? Okay, there's got to be some forward thinking here, because I think that personally the Everton away game, is one of our biggest games we've had in decades.
It is.
Like okay, maybe.
Jack, we're not going to speak before that.
But I will see you there.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
I
will
hope
be
see
there.
many of you that are watching us live there as well. It's an absolutely massive game. You know, our calls pre-game is even bigger than the quarterfinal.
Mate, I'm going to get so much food that I won't even be able to stomach beer. I'm just going to have gin all night.
I mean, that
Sorry.
sounds to be awful.
I'm so excited. I hope the traffic's all right and we get there in good time. Otherwise, it's running across Stanley Park before the coach leaves to get another
long day.
Chips. Right.
Your team.
So the team. I want to hear your team first.
Okay. That's I mean, to be fair, I normally just copy yours. Leno in goal, obviously. Now I do think this is a game where I'd rotate at fullback in terms of I would start Tete, not Castagne.
Okay.
Just because I'm liking the balance that we've got at the moment. I like that we started Tete in the Liverpool game.
This is for Newcastle, right?
Yeah, for Newcastle, sorry.
Okay, yeah.
And I would start Tete for this one. Tosin and Bassi, keep them together, playing fantastically well. We should add Castagne starting would be fine by me. But you've got to think that we've got another game a couple of days later. You have to rotate, I think, the right backs in one of these games. So I would potentially rather have Castagne starting in the quarterfinal.
Yeah, okay.
Robinson left back. We should bear in mind Robinson's one booking away from a suspension, but he has been for weeks. The suspension would only be in the Premier League, so he would miss Burnley. Not a bad time to get it, dare I say, Ballo-Touré. But then midfield, I think you go with the same that's been working in terms of you go with Polinia, Pereira, and Tom Cairney, with Iwobi on the right-hand side, Jimenez up top. I feel like even if Willian is feeling better, you probably don't start him. And you probably play Harry Wilson. One thing I would caveat is I would not be against not starting Cairney. For the reason that we have a game only a couple of nights later. I don't know if he can start both. And I would 100% be prioritising the cup game. If that is the case, then I think that you start Harrison Reed.
Something that makes me quite nervous is the fact that surely now people, like we said earlier, will clock onto the fact that do not give Cairney his space. Yeah. So if you've got James Garner and Abdoulaye Doucouré on Cairney, I feel like he may get picked off, but then again, like you know, like he's got the skill to sort of hold off those sort of players. So a lot of people say save Cairney for the cup and start Lukic or even Harrison Reed. Yeah. I'd be happy with that. Yeah,
I mean, you agree, right? I mean, the cup game is our biggest game.
Cairney,
FA Cup aside, United, and we know what happened there last year. This is our biggest game in years.
Yeah, the Carabao is huge for teams like Fulham. It should be the be all and end all for teams like us. Trip to Wembley, 2-legged semi-final. The opponents that we could have in the next round, we could get Port Vale, I think. Yeah,
Middlesbrough or Port Vale is one of the options for the semi-final.
Chelsea, Newcastle, West Ham again, and Liverpool, and of course, obviously Chelsea, and that's all of them. That's all of them. Yeah. Wow. So, I mean, I might as well. Yeah. So Cairney, we're both in agreement that Cairney should be rested for the game against Everton. Wouldn't you just love it? Iwobi against his former team sends them crash out the cup. But this is a bad time.
How much I'd love it, Jack. I would.
Everton are good though. This is going to be very difficult. This could be a penalty shootout sort of job.
Oh God, I don't know if I can face that.
I think we've if we lose against Everton, it's because we rode our luck so much on the opening day that it was just we have no luck more to give. Would you rather?
That's been playing in my mind.
Would you rather beat Everton and lose to Newcastle? Obviously,
all day long.
Yeah.
I would lose to Newcastle 400-0 if we got to the semi-final of the cup and had a two-legged game to take us to win. Okay, maybe it's a bit dramatic, you know. That's quite.
The Glock came off those performances after a 400-0 defeat.
I mean, that is what we should have lost on day one of the season, as you remember. That's like when you go on FIFA after you lose in real life and just take it out on the computer on like those childish settings ever. But yeah, I mean, you got to prioritise Everton. That being said, it shouldn't be understated that we're in a good run of form and a positive result keeps that momentum going. You know, a win leading up to the Everton game is arguably just as big in terms of resting players
Mhm.
preparation-wise, keep that momentum going.
If we were to go 3 up like we did on Sunday and just rest all the players for Tuesday, oh, could you imagine?
Magic.
Imagine a
Magic.
story. One thing that's worth mentioning, and it just dawned on me as soon as the game finished or during like the end of spells of the game, we're playing this well and we've still got Adama Traore to come in. That
Yeah.
is frightening. It's
Yeah.
so weird because like 2-3 months ago we were sitting here and we're going, "Oh, sorry guys, we're not very positive today." I was just thinking this is gonna be a drab season, like quite grim.
Yeah.
And it's just, I think the last 2 games have surpassed anything we saw last season, feel
Yeah.
good factor wise.
Yeah.
I don't know what anyone else thinks.
I mean, and you factor in the fact that we're quite near January. As good as Jimenez has been these last few games, we're probably going to get a new striker. It
The
doesn't.
attraction to play for this team is what's making me excited.
Yeah. We're a Tosin contract away from this being like one of the best weeks ever because it's been so fun. And remember, like going to the football as a fan is all about having fun. And I can't remember even that championship week where it was 7-0, 6-2, 6-2.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, loved it. One of my favourite weeks as a football fan ever.
I expected to win those games.
Exactly. The fact that it's in the Premier League, it was so much better, even though it was just the 2 games.
Yeah, and look, if this is the high point of the season in terms of Premier League results, let's just say Carabao's on the side, FA Cup's on the side. If it's as good as it gets, the Premier League, back-to-back 5-0s, I think the bottle that euphoria that you felt at the Forest game and the West Ham game, I think I take it. I think I take it because it was so special, and everyone's talking about Fulham now. Well, not everyone, but a lot of people are talking. I mean, you can't do that and have people go, "Oh yeah, well, it's impressive. It's so impressive, especially from where we came from earlier in the season. We were worried about getting relegated. I won't lie to you, Joe.
Yeah.
I know you were a bit more like, "Oh, that won't happen," but I was fearful.
I was never fearful, but I mean, I should clarify that's not because I thought we were any good. I just thought the teams at the bottom were so drab.
But they're now picking up points, so it's even more important that we've done that.
It's not quick enough at the moment to trouble us, but it is enough to trouble the teams that are slowly sliding down the league, such as Crystal Palace and Forest.
Palace will be in the relegation zone by Christmas.
You reckon? I mean, their fixtures are very tough.
Yeah.
It was obviously an improved performance against Liverpool. They got a bit unlucky with the red card, in my opinion, which swung the game in Liverpool's favour. But it's another game at home where they were typically so hard to beat. I think that's 4 in a row they've lost at home now at Selhurst Park. And there's some teams in there they should not be losing to at home in terms of Everton and in terms of Bournemouth.
I mean, we should wrap up, I think. I think before we do that, let's finally just talk about the league standings, where we're at. We're now above Chelsea. No surprise in that.
Wonderful.
No, we're now above Brentford. And it's so satisfying to see us on a 0 goal difference. It's incredible, isn't it? Yeah. How's that happened? I suppose we know how it's happened, but it's incredible.
Literally on Wednesday, it was -10, which is just so funny.
That was less than a week ago.
Yeah.
No, more than a week ago. More than a week ago. Yeah. Wait, hold on. Yeah.
It was less than a week ago, mate. Don't worry.
Less than a week. It was, of course. Yeah. I'm so frazzled today. So we're 10th in the table, 21 points. Well, actually, how many points were we on at this stage last season? I know it was during the World Cup, so we must have gone into the.
Well, we went into the World Cup break on 19.
Okay.
Because I remember, Jack, we were both saying how frustrated we were that the 2 games against the Manchester teams went away from us in the last minute, and that would have taken us to the halfway mark for safety in 40 points.
Yeah. So technically, we're doing as good as we were last season, basically.
Yeah.
And also, 10th in the table. The teams above us are very, very good. Maybe barring West Ham, what we saw the other day. I don't it's difficult because obviously you look at United and whatever, Newcastle maybe going through a rocky patch, but there's not much wiggle room for us to actually go up. Obviously, you can by winning games and accumulating points, but just the quality of those teams above us. Do you see there's a scope for us to sort of break into those positions, like I sort of mentioned the other day?
I'm not sure. I do think the teams above us are pretty strong and probably more consistent than we are. But with a good January, you never know. I mean, Brighton are one of the teams that you definitely lump into that bracket of being better than us. But at the same time,
We
if
could
we were
have
to
them.
play them tomorrow, I'd fancy us. They haven't kept a clean sheet all season, which I do think is quite pathetic. I've got to be completely honest. I think that's ridiculous. Like, grow
Deservedly.
up. It's nearly Christmas. Just don't let it in for once. Like, you play Burnley and Sheffield United at home and you let in goals in both. I mean, I know we haven't played Burnley yet, so this will probably age badly. But I'd hope you at least follow it up with another 5 at the other end or something. They had 61 touches in Burnley's penalty area, by the way. For context, the next best was around 20 something, and that is just obscene.
Right.
I mean, Trafford, I think, had a game of his life. So
Oh yeah.
Brighton are a very good team. But what I mean by that is they've also got Europe. They're through.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
It's going to be tough for them. And it's a lot of games. With a good January, you never know what can happen because, like you say, we went on a fantastic run around this time last season, just after the break, where we won 4 in a row in the league. We then went to St James's Park, ironically, where someone pointed out earlier, if that Mitrovic penalty wasn't a double touch or he just took it properly, we could win that game 1-0. You never know.
Yeah, and we weren't great that day, actually, and I think we probably deserved to lose, but I thought we defended really well. That was the game where we played a 5 and Bobby D called over Reed was sort of shifted in at right back, and this is what I was sort of saying to Marco the other day, like it's so refreshing to see that we've got 4 fullbacks who are all contributing, all playing, and we're not having to have makeshift Tim Ream at left back, makeshift Bobby Reed at right back. We've got Ballo-Touré, Castagna, Tete, Robinson, and all barring injury, touch wood. That's like so refreshing to have, and that's how football clubs should operate. You should have 2 players for each position, minimum. And yeah, I'm honestly, Mark Silva signed a new contract. January's coming up. Fulham are playing well. Like it's never been this good. It's never been this good. So even if we lose to Newcastle, it's a bit like, well, we've got a bigger game on Tuesday. And talking of which, finally, prediction for Tuesday. We're both going to be there. Very excited. But what are you thinking?
It's going to be such a tough game with how they're playing at the moment. And I know that they'll be thinking the same as us in terms of like, what an opportunity to win a bit of silverware. I've got to back us, Jack, because I want to win a cup so badly. I've got to back the team. I feel like they'll want the same. So I'm going to go for Fulham to win an absolute thriller 3-2.
I was going to say 3-2. Yeah.
And oh my God. Straight back to the Arkles after that, I must add.
Oh yeah, because you're staying, aren't you? Yeah.
Sensational. Yeah, I plan on staying. Yeah.
Oh, could you imagine? Like, do you know what? I think this would be the ideal situation. Everton take the lead. Iwobi equalises. Fulham go ahead through Raul Jimenez in the second half, 60th minute. 80th minute, Lewis Dobbin off the bench scores again against another West London team. 88 minutes. Sasha Lukic off the bench to win it for Fulham. Sasha Lukic, you got the back.
Why do I feel like his celebration would be so chilled out? By the way,
yeah. What about Adama off the bench?
Adama off the bench would be fantastic. Adama's just commented.
Quite a prediction. Oh yeah. I'm not going to read the name of the person because I don't agree with that at this current moment in time. Lukic 88, absolutely. Joe, this has been so much fun.
Yeah, loads of fun.
Actually, I know we should wrap up, but people are here. They want to ask us questions. It would feel wrong not to answer any questions. So let's just do a quick, sort of round up, quick fire. How much rotation do you reckon Everton will make? As is the game important for them? I suppose it is huge for them because again they're in the same boat as us. I think. Who are they playing this weekend?
Burnley away.
Right. Okay. Well, I think ultimately they need to get further away from the drop zone, but they have decent enough depth to sort of. I mean, Lewis Dobbin, if he's coming into form now, he scored that goal against Chelsea. He'll be in the pecking order, I'm sure. Beto scored recently. Calvert-Lewin's looking pretty good. Dwight McNeil, great goal against Newcastle. Jack Harrison. I mean, this is a very good team. Better equipped than they were when we played them in August, and even then they were brilliant, Joe.
Yeah, I think they'll play pretty much their first team though. Reason being that it's a huge opportunity for them as well. I think that they will stay up. Obviously, they're not safe yet, as is, well, no team in the league, but I think they will be fine. They obviously have to prioritise that, but equally, it's quarter-final. I think they'll play a strong team.
There's a question here. Do you celebrate in the press box? It depends. If Craven Cottage, you can get away with it because you're basically surrounded by Fulham fans. Away from home, you can't really. But you can be as subtle as you can. I know for a fact that West Ham staff at Spurs did not care where they were, and fair enough. I mean, Spurs away, but I was sat right next to them on Sunday, and they were not celebrating. I probably should be careful what I say. I'm seeing them all tomorrow. So yeah, but
wonder how they were doing on Sunday.
Yeah, no. Anything else before we go? It's all sort of stuff from earlier, and everyone's saying hello. So okay, so thanks very much for what. Oh right, hold on. There's one from. Yes,
I'm sure a huge amount is the answer.
Yeah. It's another curry for me tonight. Paneer, delicious.
Another
Saw
one.
you on Forest Fan TV the other day, Jack. Oh, that sounds exciting. I don't seem to remember being interviewed by. I think it's that young guy who's pretty good at what he does, isn't he? I'll have to check that out, guys. Thanks so much for watching. We've been here for almost an hour now. Joe, for the final time today, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks, Jack. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Enjoy the Newcastle game and then enjoy the big one, the quarterfinal at Everton. It's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, this is a great time to support Fulham. I hope everyone's enjoying it. I hope everyone's indulging in all the highlights and the analysis. And I think there's a few like BBC Radio 5 live shows I'm going to have to listen to from reacting from the last two games, which will be exciting because I thought it was very fair. The match of the day 2 analysis of our victory, the way they analysed Tom Cairney in particular. And it's just good when you get a lot of good plaudits from respected pundits and maybe even not respected pundits. But yeah, thanks so much for watching and come on Fulham.